Hello, everyone. My name is Pam Yankee Love, and I'm from the University of Louisville Traeger Institute. And in partnership with the Kentucky Coalition for Healthy Communities, we present Project Echo Care of Older Adults. We are so glad that you have joined us today. Just to help with engagement strategies, we do ask that you keep your video on if at all possible. We do ask that you mute yourself, but if you have a comment or a question, feel free to go on and raise your hand, chat, or unmute. If you're having difficulty with your sound or your video, just go on and click on your arrow next to your microphone or video to go on and test your system. If you're unable to use your computer, it's just not working with you today, you can join us via your phone. All right, we do ask that you go on and put your name and your organization on your video square. There's a couple of ways of doing that. You can go on and click on your little video square, and in the upper right-hand corner, there's three little dots. You click on that, and you can rename yourself, add your name, add your organization, your pronouns, or you can go to the participants, which is in the lower portion of your middle of your screen, and go on and click that way, and click on participants, find your name, and then go on to more, and go on and rename yourself there. But it helps us with our learning community if we can know who you are and what organization you're with and your pronouns. So if you're unfamiliar with the Traeger Institute, Republic Bank Optimal Aging Clinic, our mission is to help individuals optimally age across their lifespan, trying to expand their health span. And so we do this for a variety of ways. We have a workforce development hub. We have several grants from the federal government in which we're trying to infuse geriatrics into primary care as well as behavioral health into primary care. We train an interdisciplinary group of both current learners and seasoned learners in all things related to age-friendly healthcare and trauma-informed care and lifestyle medicine. We also engage in clinical practice transformation, in which we're taking traditional and non-traditional primary care, like your ambulatory care practices, as well as your nursing homes and your emergency departments, and trying to make sure that those practices infuse the best care for helping people optimally age. And lastly, we also spend a lot of time in the community trying to transform the community in order to help people optimally age. As I said, we are in partnership with the Kentucky Coalition for Healthy Communities, and I think I might be the one going over this. And what we're going to be doing here, the coalition, our individuals are usually here with us today. They're at a community health worker conference. So the Kentucky Coalition focuses on creating community support systems for older adults in partnership with existing local coalitions and other organizations. And the coalition attempts to develop the workforce and concerned community members to empower our communities to become healthier. So we have two parts to our Project Echo, where we have, I think, Justin, you might want to go on to the next slide. Oh, let's work on this slide. So our Project Echo really taps into a couple of different philosophies or initiatives. One being lifestyle medicine. There are 6 pillars to lifestyle medicine, and we are focusing in on those pillars of lifestyle medicine. Today, we're going to be focusing on bone health and nutrition, but the 6 pillars of health are plant-based nutrition, restorative sleep, positive social connection, physical activity, avoiding risky substances, and stress management. We're also driven by the 4Ms framework. If you're familiar with the 4Ms framework, it comes from the Institute for Healthcare Improvement and the John A. Hartford Foundation. And the focus is on age-friendly healthcare systems. In order to be an age-friendly healthcare system, the idea is to focus on 4Ms. The first M is what matters most, making sure that we understand the goals of care, getting a sense of what really matters to that individual in their healthcare. Looking at medication, making sure that when we're looking at medication, we're looking for those high-risk medications and de-prescribing if at all possible, looking for polypharmacy potential. We also look at mentation, which is really focused on the mood and the mind, looking at areas specifically related to depression, delirium, and dementia. So the fourth M is mobility, making sure that we all have daily mobility goals. So in our Project Echo, we really take into consideration both of these frameworks to really guide the work that we do here. So This is our schedule that we're looking forward to. Today we have nutrition for stronger bones, a lifestyle medicine approach. In October, we're going to be focusing on fall vaccination updates. In November, we're going to be focusing on cognitive decline and dysphasia. In December, we're going to be focusing on the blue zones and healthy aging. So we mix in lifestyle medicine about every other month with other enhanced topics that also focus on age-friendly healthcare. So if you're unfamiliar with Project Echo was developed in 2003 by an MD. His name is Sanji Aurora from the University of New Mexico, and he's a hepatitis C expert. There are now Project Echoes around the world, and the Project Echo philosophy or the platform was developed because he had so many patients driving 200 to 300 miles to him to receive care from him as an expert in hepatitis C. And so he felt like he wasn't creating local capacity, nor was he pushing out the information and the knowledge to practitioners in a local space. So the idea of a Project Echo is for telementoring. The idea is to move knowledge, not patients, and to build capacity at a local level. And Project Echoes typically have a rhythm in which they include case-based learning. And then we also teach best practices, interdisciplinary team-based care. It's a teach all, learn all kind of approach here in our Project Echo. If you're interested in receiving an attendance certificate, we do ask that you just let us know, and you have to complete the evaluation at the end of the survey. That will let us know that you would like a certificate of completion. If you are a community health worker or a social worker looking for CEU credits, you must go on and complete that evaluation at the end to go on and receive the continuing education. We're excited about now adding to our Project Echo social work CEUs. So if you're a community health worker or a CEU, we have that CEU available to you. Just go on and make sure you complete the evaluation. Justin will make sure that you have the link or the QR code that you can do it while at the end of our session. And you'll be receiving, if you're a community health worker, 1.5 CEUs. And does the same go for social work, Justin? Yes, the same goes for social work, 1.5 CEUs. And we thank Brescia University for providing the CEUs for our social workers. And today we have a presentation on nutrition for stronger bones, a lifestyle medicine approach. And I'm going to go on and introduce our speaker. We have Sally Duplantier, is a renowned gerontologist and health span educator, seeking ways to help older adults stay physically strong, mentally sharp, and socially connected. She is a frequent guest speaker for Stanford University, the Stanford VA Alzheimer's Center, and community organizations. Sally's research has appeared in numerous peer-reviewed journals, including Nutrients and the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine. MSN recently named Sally as one of the top 15 health experts to watch. So we are very honored to have Sally with us today.
I am delighted to be here. Thank you so much. And thank you to the many people who in the chat introduced themselves. So let's go ahead and get started. Um, in addition to Pam's introduction, I'll just give you a couple of other things about my background. My research is focused on healthy aging across the lifespan, and I'm actively involved in the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. I currently co-chair the Women's Healthy Aging Subcommittee, and in fact, we have put together a cross-functional team that is putting together patient-facing bone health materials. So the timing of this talk is quite good. I have a certificate in nutrition science from Stanford, a master of science in gerontology from USC, and I just started a doctorate program in public health at Indiana University. I will tell you that I am going to be 75 when I finish my doctorate program, but I will be 75 anyway. So never too old, right? So let's talk about what we're going to cover today. And I'll be speaking maybe for about 30 minutes and then we'll have some Q&A. We don't have a formal case study in this presentation, but we have a couple of caselets. I'm going to be explaining why bone health is so essential for aging well and for preventing fractures. We will identify 5 key nutrients that maintain strong, healthy bones. We will list 9 plant-based food sources that are rich in calcium, and I'm going to be describing 2 effective strategies that improve the absorption of both calcium and vitamin D. And then I'm going to be sharing this within the context of the important role of nutrition within a lifestyle medicine framework for supporting healthy bones. Now, you are all seasoned professionals. I expect that some of this will be review, and that's okay. But I'm hoping that by the end of our time together, you can walk away with one new idea to improve bone health. By the way, I will be talking if you, I'm going to be saving about 5 or 10 minutes at the end for questions, but if you have a burning question as I go, put it in the chat and we'll try to address it. Okay. So bone health, when we think, what is that? We hear that term. It's the strength, it's the structure, and it's the density of your bones. And bone health is essential for supporting your body, but it's also essential for protecting your organs. It's essential for anchoring your muscles and storing minerals like calcium. And here's the thing, bones store calcium. Your body needs calcium for so many functions. And so if your body is not getting enough calcium for those other functions, it's simply going to rob your bones. So that's part of the reason calcium is so important. Healthy bones are dense and strong, and it makes them less likely to break or fracture. Now, you've probably seen this in other slides. So what we're seeing on the left is normal bone, and what we're seeing on the right is osteoporosis. Okay? And I mean, it's like, I don't even really need to describe it. You can see the difference, and you can see why an osteoporotic bone is so much more likely to fracture. So there's a difference between osteoporosis and osteopenia. Let me clarify those definitions. So osteoporosis is the more progressive definition for bone loss. It's a decrease in bone mass leading to fragility, loss of strength, and increased fracture risk. And osteopenia is decreased bone mass, but not to the extent of osteoporosis. Oftentimes we get most people get a DEXA scan probably in their mid 60s to help determine if they have osteopenia or osteoporosis. If someone has osteopenia, it's an ideal time to deal with it before it progresses. Now, I love this chart, and I think it's worth examining a little bit more closely. Bone mass changes by age. We sometimes think, wow, I'm 65, my bones are changing. No, your bones start to change in your mid-50s. And what I'm showing here is a chart that talks about bone health in women, but men can also get osteoporosis because there are hormonal changes in men that lead to less dense bones as well. But what you can see here is that in the early years, our 10s, 20s, we are building bone. There's osteoblasts and osteoclasts, and the bone is constantly remodeling. So there's building and breaking, but look, early on, the bone building is winning. And then in our mid 30s, almost to the time of menopause, it's pretty even. The remodeling, building, breaking, building, breaking. But look what happens then after menopause. In the remodeling process, there is more bone breaking or osteoclast activity than bone building. And it's normal to lose some bone mass as we age. But what we really want is this ideal bone mass curve. And what we want to avoid is this osteoporosis danger level. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, in my talk today, we're trying to minimize bone loss. Now, how prevalent is osteoporosis? 1 in 2 women and 1 in 4 men. And it's not just the prevalence of osteoporosis, it's the frequency with which people with osteoporosis will break a bone. And why do fractures matter? And I think, many of you are familiar with this based on patients you work with, is fractures can have life-changing consequences. One of the most frequent is hip fractures. That's because one of the places where osteoporosis is so prevalent in the bone is where the hip attaches. It's called the neck of the femur, but it's a relatively small place in the bone, and that becomes osteoporotic and it leads to hip fractures, often in conjunction with some kind of fall or trip or some goofy, silly accident. But after a hip fracture, 40% of individuals can't walk independently. 80% struggle with activities of daily living. Even being able to shop independently becomes problematic. And 10 to 20% of patients require long-term nursing home care. So we really want to avoid fractures. Now, how do we do it? How do we reduce the risk? And again, this is the work that my team within ACLM has been working on. So I want to stress that reducing the risk of fracture and maintaining bone health is really multifactorial. It's never going to be one thing versus the other. So even though I'm talking about nutrition, it's only because we only have so much time together today. But it's a combination of nutrition and exercise. And notice that it's not just walking. I see a lot of older adults who love their walking. Walking is great, but you need to be doing weight-bearing exercise where you're putting pressure on your bones, and you need to be doing strength training exercise, body weight, resistance bands, weights where you're pulling on the bones. And then you need to practice balance. Now that sounds like a lot. You might think, oh my gosh, how would I have time to do all that exercise, let alone some of the older adults I serve? Well, you know what? We're going to try something here. I'm going to assume you're sitting in a chair that doesn't move. If you are on a chair that has wheels, don't try this. But what I'm going to ask you to do is lift up your hands, so don't use your hands for support. And I want you to just put your feet flat on the floor and lean forward a little bit and just slowly get up. And then I want you, again, without using your hands, to slowly sit down. Now, that was a combination of weight bearing, strength training, and balance. And I like to think about how we can just do everyday functional movement to help improve bone health. It doesn't always have to be the gym. Okay, again, from a lifestyle medicine perspective, don't smoke. It is one of the worst things you can do for your bone health. And we say limit alcohol. Most of the research about alcohol and bone health has been done in heavy drinkers, 3 or more drinks a day. But the emerging research shows that even 1 to 2 drinks a day it can decrease calcium absorption. So limit alcohol. And then this one I just can't say enough about, and I think it's something we tend to forget, fall prevention. Because porous bones are bad, but falling with porous bones is worse. And so a lot of this is around home modifications, vision checks, things that you might be doing on a regular basis with your clients. Okay, so now I'm going to double click into calcium. When we think of bone health, we think of calcium, but many different nutrients are required for bone health, lots and lots. And we'll through these next slides. This is based on the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation. It's not every nutrient, but it's some of the key ones that especially older adults may be missing in their diets. So magnesium, I mean, magnesium does so many things, and a lot of older adults are deficient. So magnesium is good for nerve health. It's good to help calm the nervous system, but it's also important to increase bone density. And look at all the foods it's in. You're going to see that the star of the show is the avocado. The avocado is in almost everything, but it's in bananas, it's in leafy greens, it's in nuts, it's in seeds, it's in legumes, it's in yogurt. Nuts and seeds, though, are especially good, and a quarter cup of nuts and seeds would provide all the magnesium you need in a day. You could even add some dark chocolate chips to that because they're high in magnesium too. So vitamin D, I think we talk a lot about vitamin D, but why is it so important? It's important because it improves calcium absorption, also phosphorus absorption. Both are important for bone health. And as you probably know, it's really hard to get vitamin D from food. Our bodies were designed to get vitamin D from sunlight. So it's not a lot. It's 10 minutes a day, maybe 3 times a week on a third of our body. But a lot of us can't even get that much sunlight. So this is where we might typically supplement, but also in fortified foods like fortified milk or cereals, eggs, cheese, salmon. Mushrooms have vitamin D, but I tell people you'd have to eat a lot of mushrooms to get all the vitamin D that you need. Potassium. If you don't have enough potassium, too little depletes calcium in the bones. Well, oh my gosh, it's almost hard not to get enough potassium if you eat a varied diet. There's my star, the avocado again, there's salmon, we have legumes, we have nuts. Tomatoes are a great source. Even like dried apricots. I think that's a sweet potato. There's our banana again. So lots and lots of foods contain potassium. And then vitamin K. Vitamin K is really essential for bone health. It synthesizes something called osteocalcin, and that is an important protein for maintaining bone health. So vitamin K is in all of your dark green leafy vegetables, and it's in other green vegetables like peas, for example, and there's the avocado again. So I think my takeaway as somebody who studies nutrition for older adults is eat variety. From a lifestyle medicine perspective, think mostly plants because everything that I've been highlighting, with the exception pretty much of the salmon, has been plant-based nutrition. Okay, so what about calcium? I did promise that we would get to calcium, so let's talk about that. Did you know that 75% of the Earth's population is lactose intolerant? That means that people cannot digest lactose, which is a sugar that occurs in dairy. Just out of curiosity in the chat, just type yes, no, or a little, are you lactose intolerant? So Jennifer said yes. I'm just curious here. Yes, no, no, a little, no. Okay, lots of people know. It's so funny. I think so. I love that answer. Because by your answers, I can almost tell something about your ancestry. Isn't that interesting? Let's go on. Okay, we did this one. So when people say they are or are not lactose intolerant, it actually has something to do with your genealogy. And it has to do where your ancestors are from. And if you have ancestors from Central or Northern Europe. So we're going to guess something here. About 7,500 years ago, something really interesting happened in Central Europe. Take a guess on what happened. And I'll give you a clue. It has something to do here with calcium or lactose intolerance, because that's what we're talking about. Anyone want to guess? I'm going to look at the chat here. Anybody want to take a guess? Krista got it. Cow milk. Justin said cows were domesticated. Yes, let's go to the next slide. What happened was cows. So 7,500 years ago, when cows were domesticated, people started drinking milk as adults and they lost that lactose intolerance. Most people are lactose intolerant as adults because we didn't drink milk. But if your ancestors drank milk, again, Northern Europe, Central Europe, somewhere in your lineage, you probably aren't lactose intolerant. But considering that 75% of the population is, it would be really tough if the only way we could get our calcium was from dairy. So the good news is that there are plenty of plant-based options for calcium. How much do you need? So let's look at this. So these are the recommended dietary allowances set by the US government. And if you're 51 to 70, women need 1,200 milligrams. Over 70, both men and women need 1,200 milligrams. Remember, I said that bone density is something that men deal with, loss of bone density, not just women. So how can you get enough without consuming dairy? Well, I put together on the next slide a little plant-based menu. So let's look at this in detail. And these can come from a food tracker called MyNet Diary. So oatmeal and berries. Now this is even without the milk, has 15 milligrams of calcium. Fortified non-dairy milk, and we're going to double click into that, 301. Chia seeds, look at those. Okay, nut-based yogurt. Okay, you don't have to have dairy yogurt to get calcium. Tofu firm, broccoli. Look at all these white beans. All beans have calcium. White beans are especially good. Quinoa has a little bit. And then kale. Kale is like by far the winner. Kale has so much calcium in it. And then sesame seeds. So here, just on a plant-based diet, just by paying attention, I got us to 1,200 milligrams. Now, maybe people don't get all of it from food, but you can see that it's possible. Okay, let's take a look a little bit more at these non-dairy milks. And again, this is a busy slide. I just want to give you a chance to kind of look at it. So what we're doing is we're comparing protein and calcium, and then just some other nutrients, vitamin D, A, etc. And you can see that whole milk or non-fat milk have a lot of protein. You have less protein with your alternative milks. The exception is soy milk, which has pretty much the same amount of protein as you get from regular milk. I will also say there's lots and lots of sources of protein. You don't have to get it from milk. But look at the differences in calcium. Type in the chat, why does almond milk or hemp milk, why is the calcium level so much higher in those than regular milk, than dairy milk? Plants, yes, it's a plant-based milk, but that's not the source of the calcium. It's fortified. It's fortified and added in. Some, interestingly enough, Abe says include magnesium. Some milk is probably fortified with magnesium. I'm not sure about that. But basically, we take calcium citrate and we fortify these nut-based or plant-based milks. Now, people say, oh my gosh, well, then that's an additive. Can you absorb it? Yes. It's easier for you to absorb that calcium citrate if it has been added to a milk than if you just take a pill. So your your other alternative milks are a great source of calcium. And personally, I drink both. I usually have my cereal with almond milk in the morning just to help make sure I get enough calcium. And then later in the day, I just like a latte with non-fat milk. So what about calcium absorption? This is really key because it's really not how much you intake, but how much you absorb in your bones. So a number of factors impact the amount of calcium that is absorbed by the body. One of them is age. And so the reason that the RDA for older adults is so high compared to younger adults is for that reason. It's because we just don't absorb as much because we get older. But here are some of the other ones. So I've mentioned these. Smoking, yes, alcohol, keep alcohol levels low. And caffeine, but I want to talk about caffeine because I've seen people kind of morbidly afraid of a cup of coffee. And the studies show that if you're getting about 400 milligrams of caffeine a day, so that's 2 to 3 cups of regular cup coffee. You know, if you're drinking espresso, it might be like a double shot of espresso, but about 400 milligrams, there's no problem with caffeine absorption. It's really when we get in excess of that. If you're taking calcium supplements, I probably wouldn't take it with a cup of coffee, but I don't want people to be afraid of caffeine. However, there is something else that affects calcium that we should talk about. So it's something called oxalates or phytates, and it's excessive levels of this. You may have heard of these. Oxalates are in greens and beans, and phytates are in grains. And what oxalates and phytates are, they're compounds that protect the plants from getting eaten by predators. Okay? They don't impact human health, but they can impact the absorption of certain nutrients. So let me give you a great example on the next slide. Spinach is a great source of nutrients. It is an amazing source of vitamin K. I eat spinach every day, but I don't eat spinach for the calcium. So this is a little bit misleading on the nutritional label when it says calcium 80 milligrams. I have people all the time, oh, I get plenty of calcium. I eat a lot of spinach. But spinach is high in oxalates, which means that it's low absorption. So you're going to get some calcium, but it's not as beneficial as some other greens. So let's take a look at what those other greens are. So low oxalate greens, high absorption, there's your kale. There's your superstar kale, but it's also broccoli. It's bok choy, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, arugula. And you know, a lot of times I'll just make like stir fry with broccoli and bok choy and kale. I mean, it's an amazing source of calcium. And quite honestly, our ability to absorb calcium from these greens is better even than dairy. Who knew? So I'm back to my advice here. If you take away one thing, take away this: eat variety. I don't think we have to become obsessed about the greens we eat, but eating variety, not just making spinach your go-to, is going to help with your overall health, but it's going to help with bone health. Now, here is a paradox. Calcium absorption efficiency decreases as intake increases. In other words, the more calcium we take in at any one time, the less we absorb. So here is my advice. For best absorption, consume calcium throughout the day. You don't want to have all of your calcium in the morning. You want to spread it out throughout the day to help you absorb it better. So what's wrong with this picture? Go ahead and type in the chat. Nature's Bounty is selling 1,200 milligram tablets of calcium. That's a full day of calcium. What's wrong with this? Yes. Abe, it's all 1,200 at once. You're going to be able to absorb at best 5 or maybe 600 milligrams. So it just doesn't make sense. People buy it all the time. So the general rule, and again, you have probably heard this, consume at least half your calcium from your diet. I think that's just the general recommendation from nutritionists, from your primary care physicians. So a calcium supplement like this might make sense in combination with food. I will tell you, I work at this pretty religiously. I mean, I really do try to get it mostly from foods. I take a one-a-day vitamin that I get maybe 300 or 400 milligrams, but I'm able to get the rest from food. Yes, and Katie mentioned you need other nutrients to assist with absorption. I actually have a slide for that. So then you might also wonder, well, you go to the drugstore or you look online, what's the difference between calcium carbonate and calcium citrate? And so calcium carbonate is the least expensive. It's probably the most common. It works in combination with stomach acid, which means that if you're going to take calcium carbonate as a supplement, take it with food. Yeah, not coffee, but take it with some other food to maximize absorption. Calcium citrate's a little bit different. It's more easily absorbed, and you can take it on an empty stomach. I finally, on those days when I don't get enough calcium, I finally switched to calcium citrate because I couldn't always remember, oh, food, no food type of thing. So this one's just a little bit easier to work into your day. And now somebody said you need other nutrients to assist with absorption. Here's a recommendation for vitamin D. Vitamin D, again, most people will supplement. Don't take it on an empty stomach. Take it with a little fat, a little olive oil, hummus, some nuts, some seeds. It could even be a little butter. Okay, I didn't put butter in there, but it could be. Your absorption is going to get better with a little bit of fat. So here are my takeaways. And then I have two little, like I said, caselets. A lot of nutrients are required for bone health in addition to calcium. Today we talked about magnesium, potassium, vitamin D, and vitamin K. Consume as much calcium as possible for food. If you need to supplement, no more than half your daily allowance. The next one, a variety of nutrients, okay? Plants, not just dairy, and then consume calcium throughout the day. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. When I was a little kid, we used to play What's Wrong with This Picture? We'd look at something and we'd go, well, like, wait, what's off with that? So let's look at our first caselet. This is Hung. Hung is a petite 55-year-old woman. She weighs about 100 pounds. She eats a mostly plant-forward diet, but is concerned about getting all the nutrients she needs. In the morning, along with her breakfast oatmeal, she takes a 500 milligram calcium supplement and a multivitamin. What's wrong with this picture? Think about it and then take a guess in the chat. Bree said too much calcium at once, and Gina said the multivitamin also has calcium. You are both right. Spread it throughout the day. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. This used to be me. And then it's like, oh my God, look at your multivitamin supplement. It probably has maybe 400 milligrams of calcium. Probably with the oatmeal, she's having milk. It doesn't say that, but she's probably having milk. And then to take a calcium supplement on top of it, she'd be so much better saving that calcium supplement for lunchtime. Yeah, absolutely. All right, one more. Meet Nita. Nita is a 60-year-old woman who has gained about 15 pounds post-menopause. In her battle to lose weight, she has significantly cut calories to less than 1,000 per day. She is eating a very restrictive diet with mostly meat and little fruit. I'm looking at your answers. Kristen said she's not eating enough. Absolutely, you cannot get the nutrients you need on 1,000 calories a day. You need at least 1,200. And she's not eating enough vegetables. There's really nothing with calcium, not enough variety of nutrients. So, the thing is that we we can appreciate and empathize with people who are trying to lose weight, cutting calories, cutting food groups. It's just not the right way to do it. And yet, I did not make these case studies up. I said the first one is based on me, and there is Anita I know who has done this. All right, let's go to the next slide where I think I've included my information so you can contact me with other questions, but I think we still have time, Justin. Can we do 5 minutes of Q&A?
Oh, yeah, you have plenty. We're doing great on time, so please,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll just open it up. So I guess type in the chat. I don't think, can people come off mute or do they just type in the chat if they have questions?
People can do either way.
Okay.
They can
So what are
unmute
you
themselves,
curious?
yep, or chat.
Yeah, tell me what you're curious about.
So Barbara in the chat asked, what role does collagen play in bone health?
Mm, that is a good question. Um, I have to say, Barbara, it's something I really haven't studied. I'd love to give you an answer, but when I give people answers, I give them I give them an evidence-based answer. So maybe someone else could answer that. But if not, Justin, if you make a note of this, I will look at this and I will get back to you. I'll get back to Justin. Suggestions for helping aging patients with nutrition needs requirements on a fixed income. Bree, I think this is such a good question. One thing I'm going to say is that we have glorified organic produce when it's not more nutritious. And I know that seems like heresy. I worked with Dr. Christopher Gardner on this. Christopher Gardner is one of the top nutrition scientists in the world. He heads up the Stanford laboratory that looks at the role of nutrition in disease prevention. And we looked at, it was meta-analysis of probably, I don't know, 800 total studies. And the thing is that organic produce, organic foods, they have um, there's less chemicals, there's less pesticides. They still have some, 14 compared to maybe 1,400 for regular food. But in the amounts of food that we eat, those pesticides so far have been considered safe. Now, the foods themselves are not more nutritious. So one way to help older adults is that it doesn't all have to be organic. We also, in our research, looked at GMO and non-GMO produce. GMO is everywhere. Genetically modified organisms have gotten a bad rap primarily because of marketing. So if you ever eat corn, or anything made with corn, it's genetically modified here in the United States. And it's been genetically modified to be resistant to bugs so that we can grow more. In some countries, they have to have GMO because otherwise they wouldn't be able to create enough food to feed people. So, I mean, I saw gummy bears the other day and it said now gluten-free, non-GMO. And it was just so hysterical because gummy bears, first of all, they're full of sugar. They never had GMO. They would never have GMO. They would never have gluten. So really the nutrient difference between organic foods with organic foods and GMO, it's not there. Their research does not show it. Dr. Gardner has a book coming out about this in 2026. So somebody said, okay, somebody was talking about absorption. Is it difficult for older habits to change their eating habits as they find it easier to take supplements and tend to overdo it? Okay, it's possible to take lower throughout the day instead of 1,200 all at once. Okay, I recommend I recommend spreading the calcium throughout the day and having a system for any kind of pill intake. So if you want to ensure an older adult might get their calcium in um, at lunchtime, I mean, it depends on how you do the medications, but if you know somebody's going to be taking calcium with food, have it at breakfast. A calcium supplement and oatmeal or milk is okay, but not on top of a multivitamin. And I think it's just really having a system. Some people disagree with me about getting it all from food. We have somebody in our bone health committee who said, come on, Sally, it's not that hard to get 1,200 milligrams from food. And it's not that hard, but you really have to pay attention. So I don't I don't object if people want to take a calcium supplement, but I would not do more than 500 milligrams. Any other questions? And feel free if somebody else has a suggestion. So, like Bree said, helping people with nutrition needs on a fixed income, jump in there. I also think just frozen vegetables, frozen fruit is a great option if you can't afford fresh produce. All right, so Kristen says there seems to be a few delivery options for magnesium. How much does the delivery mechanism impact absorption? This is a great question, Kristen, again, which I haven't researched. So, Justin, if you make a note and send me these, I will take a look. I'm just not that familiar with the creams and sprays, etc. What I can tell you is that a lot of us don't get enough magnesium, and it would be so easy with a quarter cup of nuts and some dark chocolate chips. And I'm speaking today, I'm doing a presentation for caregivers of Alzheimer's patients. I'm giving them the same tip, like take a bunch of raw nuts, put them in a bin, a container, add some dark chocolate chips, eat a quarter cup a day. It, it really is that simple, and it's a much better alternative than potato chips. Is there an unhealthy amount of calcium intake? So, Justin, this is one of the big controversy areas because there have been studies that show that taking more than 1,000 milligrams of calcium is negatively associated with heart health, that we can actually increase calcium deposits on the inside of the arteries. There's some controversy about those studies, and I think we need more research, but it's one of the reasons medical professionals will say don't take more than 500 milligrams a day. So maybe in closing, I said I wanted you to learn one new thing. If there's one thing that you could take away from today and maybe apply to your own bone health or patient, type it in the chat, and then I will turn this back to Justin.
Sally, I have a few questions.
Sure, of course.
So, I find it interesting that bone health is rarely discussed, at least among my sisters and their doctors, and it's just rarely discussed. And I find that when the discussion happens, it's usually at menopause. And I find that the DEXA scans occurring at 65 doesn't align with the average age of 51 for menopause. So I find it interesting because I think we definitely need to be talking more about bone health. And I'm really glad that you've been here and shared all of your knowledge with us. And I can't seem to make that, you know, it doesn't fit for me.
Pam, I agree, and I'm going to share a personal story. I had some foot surgery when I was in my late 50s, 58, and my bones, my foot never healed. I was in a boot for 5 months. I'm like, oh my God, like what's going on? So I had my first DEXA scan at 58, and I had osteopenia. And I'm thinking, I'm small. I mean, I'm like a high risk person because I'm petite. I don't weigh a lot. Why didn't somebody check it sooner? And when I was 58 and asked my endocrinologist what I could do besides medication, she said, I don't know, look it up on the internet.
Yeah. Right.
So I think we need to create a lot more awareness about bone health because bone health starts to decrease in our 30s.
Right. Yeah. Found that
Yeah.
interesting. I also wanted to ask you about just a variety of things. I have a few things. So when you're looking for vitamins, okay, there are so many vitamin options. And I'm not actually asking for an endorsement of a particular
Yeah.
vitamin, but I am asking you, like, how is it that you were defined? What should you trust when you're
Yeah.
looking at vitamin?
Yeah, I'm going to put something in the chat, USP and NSF. So the challenge with supplements in general is they're not regulated. We think they are. So they're not regulated, first of all, for efficacy, but secondly, they're not even regulated for safety. You can go to a store, you can buy a supplement, it might say 1,000 milligrams of oyster shell calcium. I'm just pretending that. And what's in the bottle is not necessarily on the label because it's only the manufacturer who's looking at that. Now, there are two third parties, USP and NSF. And if you find a vitamin or a vitamin or mineral a supplement that has one of those two endorsements, it means that at least what's in the bottle matches what's on the label. And it means that they use generally safe manufacturing processes. So I would always look for USP or NSF. And I think the really tricky ones, I get scared when people are ordering like, I don't know, supplements for muscle building. Um, like you've never heard of these products and they're ordering a mail, through online sources. It's dangerous.
Um, Justin, I have two more. I think we have some time. So are you? Oh,
Well,
we have more questions.
there is one question in the chat that I want to make sure you see. How do
Yeah.
people with vitamin D deficiency get enough to support their calcium intake?
So you can have a vitamin D deficiency, and I think that adults should get their vitamin D3 serum level checked every year as part of your annual checkup. And unfortunately, I don't think Medicare pays for it, which is so silly. So if you have a vitamin D deficiency, your physician will probably recommend megadoses to get you to an acceptable level. We used to think that a level of like 20, I think it's 20 ml, was a good level. And now physicians are saying, no, it needs to be higher. So about 30 or higher. Here's the thing though with vitamin D is let's say you're on a supplement. Let's say your physician says take 5,000 units a day. So the normal would be, let's say 600 to 1,000 international units. So now it's 5,000 a day. Then you need to get your blood serum levels rechecked. You can't just continue to take these high megadoses of vitamin D. It's a fat soluble vitamin, which means that it stays in the body. It's not excreted through urine if you have excess levels, and you could start to have excess levels of vitamin D. So just get it checked every year to make sure you're in the safe zone. If you take a megadose, get it checked again.
Yeah, I think just
There's one more question in the chat about
Sure.
someone's aunt is perimenopausal at 47. When does the bone loss start? Does it start with perimenopause or is it after menopause is complete?
The bone loss, believe it or not, starts in your 30s, like after age 30. So there's a general decline. It's hard to say exactly, in conjunction with menopause because it has a lot to do with estrogen and how much, and people as they go through menopause, that estrogen loss is different for every individual. I will tell you that something I'm seeing that's really encouraging is that we are looking more at the positive evidence behind hormone replacement therapy. We used it for a while, and then there was increased risk of breast cancer, uterine cancer, And now we're analyzing some of those studies and seeing some of the flaws in them, and we're starting to see the more positive benefits of hormone replacement therapy. So that's too late for somebody like myself, but I think for our younger women who are just starting to go through menopause or where it's a future, it's something to talk to your physician about.
And to add to that question, is there, so with, I am familiar with some of the literature that talks about hormone replacement affecting individuals, and is there a way to reverse from osteoporosis to osteopenia with just diet and supplements? Is there research that suggests that you can do that? And can then you also go from osteopenia to not having, is there a way
The,
to
the
reverse?
answer, the answer is yes, you can reverse osteoporosis, but it's not really the nutritional element. It's the exercise element, and it's kind of heavy duty strength training. So there's a wonderful study. It was called the Lift More. I'm putting it in the chat. The Lift More study showed that again, this higher level of strength training, resistance training, was able to reverse the effects of osteoporosis. Now, a challenge is that many older adults don't do any strength training, or they don't do enough strength training to really reverse bone loss. And it's something that, again, in the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, we're really trying to encourage. So, I mean, I'll just give you all like a little tip. Like I walk my dog, I walk her. Yeah, that's weight bearing. But when I'm hiking, I'm more stomping. I'm trying to do more kind of pushing against the earth. That higher level of resistance training is going to be much better. I can do bicep curls with 4 pound weights. But if I'm really, working, I can do maybe 8 pounds and not that many. That is going to be better for bone health. It's just, I think we have to meet older adults where they are, and it can be a challenge.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I see some of the comments in here that people are writing, yes, high level resistance training can possibly reverse osteoporosis. I would agree, Tiffany. Our studies are relatively small, and so it doesn't happen with everyone, but it can make a difference in conjunction with everything else that we talked about. Cancer treatment and extreme bone loss. Wow. Bree, again, I hope somebody, Justin, send me these questions. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think an easy answer is probably yes, but I just don't know the science behind it. Pam, anything else? I love the questions.
I could ask another one. I don't know if Justin's going to be disappointed. And no, you're okay. All right. Iodine. Can you talk about iodine and I had heard once that you should get tested for iodine and how it interferes with, um, I guess it's absorption of calcium and because I guess there's so much focus too on sea salt and not regular salt and I don't know. I just vaguely remember this and can you speak to that?
So I'm trying to think. Give me a second here. I'm trying to think. I really think this is more of an urban legend than
Okay.
anything else. To my knowledge, iodine is essential for thyroid hormone production. It interacts with the thyroid gland, but
Right.
not with bone minerals like calcium. I believe I've heard that, but I don't recall any
Okay.
studies that I've read with that one. You
Okay.
guys, you have great questions. I have to admit, you have great questions. And I'll just say, Tiffany added, I see more women in their 60s and 70s becoming weightlifters and competitive bodybuilders. I mean, it is one of the most important things we can do for our health. I will tell you, I'm 72. I love to walk. I love to hike. I have to make myself do the strength training. I just have to. I don't really enjoy it as much, but I know how important it is.
All right, I think we are going to now.
All right.
Thank you so much, Sally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Sally. So Sally's presentation and a recording of this presentation will be available in iEcho after today. So we really appreciate your expertise, Sally. Oh, you did have some things in here about medications. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just put this in case anybody is interested. I am not an MD. This was like an extra slide, but sometimes during my talks, people ask about osteoporosis medications. So this is just a little bit of a cheat sheet. You can have this again as a reference for later, but it just talks about the different medications that are used and how they work.
Yeah, thank you.
And then these are all my references. So if nothing else, the references are good for the for future research you might want to do.
So, and this kind of reminds me that we do have the call for presentations open for the 2026 Optimal Aging Conference, and our theme this year is Lifestyle Medicine Pathways to Optimal Aging. So, we are accepting other presentations about caring for older adults, but hint, hint, if anybody wants to submit something about lifestyle medicine, Sally, we would.
I just did the screenshot. What kind of say more about what kind of presentations you're looking for? Because
So,
maybe anyone in our audience might be
yeah,
interested.
so if you visit the website, you'll see the different tracks
Okay.
that we have. We have tracks around caregiving, around interprofessional care, around technology, clearly lifestyle medicine. I can't remember all five right offhand, but they're hour-long presentations and really it's interprofessional focused around caring for older adults. But the theme this year is going to be lifestyle medicine and how it is a pathway to optimal aging. So.
Oh, wow.
uh,
Okay.
and the deadline is October 30th. So if anybody has any questions about that, you can reach out to me. And the conference will be in person in Louisville, Kentucky. So today, Mona could not be here to present the KCHC portion of the session. She is doing the Community Health Worker Conference. So I'm just going to kind of just remind you, this is really an opportunity to empower community members to provide hope and education for your communities. We learned a lot of great information today. How are you going to share this? How are you going to get this out to your communities and the people you serve and the people you're in relationship with? Anybody have any ideas? I'll start by saying that I'm going to share the recording of this with my wife, who is in her mid 50s, and we're thinking about optimally aging and all the little things you got to manage as part of that. Yeah, and so Abe, it'll be in the in iEcho, so you can access the recording, later today. It'll be in the resource section. Yeah, Kristen, yeah. You work with people that are, food boxes to seniors, and you plan to share some of these superfoods with them, sharing the information with elder adults when you speak on nutrition. Yeah, great. Yeah, sharing it in teams. Okay, well, I really love that you're all thinking about ways that you can share this with your networks. Yeah, your grandmother's in her early 70s. Great. I really just appreciate that, we're learning things that we can apply to the people either we're caring for or that we care and really help improve their overall well-being. Yeah, Chandler, I think your diabetes self-management program participants would really benefit from this.
Justin, can I share one more thing and put it in the chat?
Sure. Yeah, you're well. If you can stay, you're welcome to hang out and share what your
Okay.
knowledge anytime.
So I'm just gonna put this in the chat. I've since the start of the pandemic, I have been doing free webinars on healthy aging, primarily based on lifestyle medicine, but they're all evidence-based. They feature experts from all over the world, actually. We've had participants from 57 countries. We've had speakers from many. They're free and they're recorded. So as I'm looking at when people are saying, "Oh, I want to share this with my 70-year-old, whomever," take a look at my Zing Life, my upcoming programs. They're free and they're also recorded. So even if somebody can't attend real time, they always get the recording. It's my public health service.
Thank you. And I appreciate everyone sharing how you're going to share the information. So any events, and Sally just shared, her upcoming programs, any events going on in your community or organization that you'd like to share? I want to say that so Tiffany, do you want to come off mute?
Yeah, it wasn't something. I had a question. I had another question for Sally.
Hi,
Um,
Tiffany.
hey, hi. I appreciate all the information that you've shared today. For myself, as well as I'm an older intern with the Traeger Institute in my second year of practicum. Um, and I'm a part of the behavioral health program. But
Mm.
anyway, I've been doing a lot of reading and watching videos and reading articles and all that kind of stuff, independent research and just gathering of information. Do you know if there is a connection, and what kind of connection does flexibility have with bone health or maintaining bone health? Is there a
Yeah.
connection?
Yeah, Tiffany, you bring up such a great answer. I consider flexibility as being key to mobility, and I also consider flexibility key part of balance. And I think it's just something we don't do enough. I have a longer version of this talk where we actually get more into kind of the exercise pieces. And I really try to get people focused on everyday movement to improve flexibility. It's so simple. It's 30 seconds here and there, and I can't demo it here. But I think you get it. It's the stretching of the spine. It's the, moving at least in the direction of our hands and our legs. And that takes a combination of strength and balance, but the flexibility is really key. So I don't know that flexibility necessarily builds better. It doesn't really affect bone density, but it helps with that very, very important reduced fracture risk. So it's a great question and something definitely you should be thinking about.
So it's more protective than anything else. It would be more of a protective factor than.
It's more protective to reduce the risk of fracture. Yeah, and falling. Great question.
So I did put in the chat that the Traeger Institute has a team that's walking, and the Alzheimer's Association walked in Alzheimer's in Louisville on October 19th. Please reach out if you'd like to contribute, either walking with us, or we're also raising funds. So please reach out to me if you have questions. Any other events going on in your communities? All right, so My Health Matters is every Monday evening from 6:30 to 7:30 via Zoom. They're going to have an open conversation on September 22nd, and Mona, kind of following up on what Sally was just talking about, is going to present on Beyond the Trip Hazard, Mastering the Mindset of Fall Prevention on September 29th, and the October schedule is to be announced. If you ever have any questions about that, you can reach out to me and I can introduce you to Mona. Thank you, Christine. And there is a health fair at Park Duval tomorrow from 12 to 4 if you're in Louisville. Thank you, Christine. And you can always share things like that with me, and I will try to share it with the community when I send out emails. Flourishing Together, there's going to be some future classes coming up. This is an excellent 10-week cohort-based class to really learn healthier lifestyle, to really help manage diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic conditions. We have a diabetes self-management class that we have a session that starts on the 23rd, so very soon, which is going to be virtual or at the Optimal Aging Clinic. And then session 2 starts on September 25th, and that's in the evening, and it's a virtual session. This is a free 6-week program to help anyone 60 plus, or preferences given to people 60 plus to really help manage diabetes or pre-diabetes diagnosis. Again, there's a QR code, and you can always reach out to me to learn about this awesome free opportunity that is available to you or anyone who is struggling to manage diabetes. We have a variety of other programs here at the Traeger Institute, our Flourish program. We have a caregiver program. We have virtual friendly visitor program and a Pearls program, which is really focused on, again, helping individuals with 60 plus that are struggling with managing their mental health. There's a link here that you can find our website. So if everybody is like me and you have a smartphone that measures your steps, here is an opportunity for you to participate in our annual county walk challenge. This is our 14th year. We are going to give certificates to counties in Kentucky that had the most steps. So if you click this QR code or visit our website, you can measure your steps. And again, it's really easy if you have a phone. Basically, if your phone measures your steps, you can just literally log in and get the number of steps that you have. My phone does it by week, so it's really, really convenient. But we encourage you to, if you're not walking, walk more. I think Sally kind of encouraged us to do that, but then here's an opportunity for you to get a little honor in your county by getting the most steps around the state of Kentucky. So you've participated in today's Project Echo session. If you want to learn more about caring for older adults, become an optimal aging scholar, here are some program requirements here. We do have some online modules to complete. You would attend an interprofessional case management experience, which puts you in teams to really learn about managing the care of a fictionalized older adult. We have an Impact 4M training, which really focuses on the 4Ms. So we really get a deep dive into the 4Ms, which Pam talked about earlier. And then you would participate in the Optimal Aging Conference, either being on a panel talking about your experience and how it applies to older adults, or participating in creating a poster presentation. So if you have any interest in this, please reach out to me and I can make an introduction to Sophia. So we would really love your participation in that, and this is a really great way for you to learn more about caring for older adults. This is our schedule through the end of the year. Hope you will join us. If you have an iEcho account, and you probably do if you're here today, basically you can log into iEcho. You don't need to register again, and we hope to see you at sessions later this year. We're going to have a great opening series in 2026. It's kind of hard to think that we're already thinking about the spring already, but there's going to be some announcements coming in the next few sessions about registration. We're still learning about iEcho. And the way it's currently set up is I might have to create a new series that you would register for, but it'll be really simple. If you already have the account, you would just register for that new series. But I'll be making announcements throughout the end of the year as that becomes more apparent what we're going to have to do. But we really appreciate you being here. We're really working to become an effective state coalition, again, to really make Kentucky a healthier and more compassionate people. And so we really would encourage you to invite people to these sessions. Take what you're learning and take it back to the people you're serving and the people in your life that you care about. And we so do appreciate you being here. I'm inviting everyone to do the evaluation. If you are a community health worker or a social worker who would like to receive continuing education, you must complete the evaluation. I'm going to stop sharing the screen just for a second so I can put the link in the chat. But if you complete this very short survey. I will be sending out certificates early next week. So we do appreciate you being here, and we hope to see you in October. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sally, for being here today.
It was such a delight. Thank you for all the great questions. Such a good group, and I hope I can join you in the future because your upcoming sessions sound wonderful.